the Thommy edition still poses questions, and one of them is the Galaxies have a lot of players, a lot of returning players. Does anybody feel that there are some players that need to go? Obviously, Klauss is an addition here. We can talk about Ramirez if we want to start.
You think he's an obvious one?
Yeah, I think everyone thinks maybe. I don't know though. Like
he's
with the Nasty loan.
Yeah, with the Nasty loan, it's interesting because what if we end up like not? We're gonna have to make some moves last second for a backup striker. If Nascimento, if we decide not to go with him, it's dangerous.
You imagine that he's gonna be there to fill in that 6-month gap at the very least. If he has that contract, might as well see it out. Worry about it next week.
And he's not making that much, is he?
I think he's still making like 500, 600,000, which is a lot in comparison. Like, I think that might be more than what Tommy's going to end up making.
Damn.
The only issue now is because we brought in Klauss, and the assumption is that he takes on a TAM deal or you let him walk, is that Nascimento is not getting bought for $6 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That was a pretty tough ask, to be honest. It always came down to if he proves it with like a crazy season. But
yeah,
it's difficult to say how much hope the Galaxy had in that realistically happening.
I was very okay with the idea of Nascimento playing and us fostering him and this being a gap year if that was the case, and we used the DP money on a 10 so that we could figure out if he was worth the $6 million. But also, I just don't think $6 million is that much money in today's market. Like, I think I talked about it that Jovic was like 4.5 when we signed him, which if you inflate that 4 or 5 years, like that's probably $6 million. And Nascimento has talent. The only issue now is if you're going to be paying Klauss to play your striker minutes all the time, even if he's a high TAM, Nascimento becomes useless isn't the right word, but if he's only playing 20, 30 minutes,
redundant.
Yeah, and for a young guy, like, he doesn't want those minutes. He wants to start somewhere.
Yeah. What if he's the backup 10?
That's not a bad shout. Or I
don't know the shadow striker.
I could. Wait, you saying Klauss or
Nasty?
I could low-key see maybe Klauss being that kind of center forward, like a deep line,
like a striker.
Yeah, especially if he has those underlying stats of kind of more defensive. I think that could be really productive as a pressing 10.
But then we really need Ramirez. We have nobody there.
Well, we got him, right? So that's not a problem.
My only issue with that is I'd rather see them both play as 2 strikers and not as a 10. And that, I think,
they wouldn't be a 10. They would technically
that's what it would
strikers.
be.
It would just be one guy would be sitting underneath the other. Technically a 10.
My personal belief is that neither of them can do that role. Because I don't think Klauss has the long range passing to play that role.
And I see Nasty doing that though.
I
don't know how much.
It's not as much long range passing in the Vanney system though. It's a lot more shorter passes.
One to another.
Yeah. So if we need someone to link up the play between our front 3, I think Nascimento can do that in a backup role, not as our main guy to do it. It's obviously Royce this season to do that.
Especially if you think of the Pooj role as someone who does break those lines and gets you from the midfield to that attacking third. You replace that with players like Thommy, players like Peck. Eventually, I bet amongst all of them, you get a similar number of line breaks, so to speak. That I don't know. I like that idea as soon as Dari mentioned it. Got the wheels turning. I'm sure Greg started going crazy right now.
I don't know if I can see. I'd have to see a lot more tape of Nasi doing it, and maybe that's the issue. Is
we haven't seen much at all.
Yeah. There's not much tape on him in general.
Yeah, but I do think I think the reason this comes to mind though is because he has that on-field connection with Royce a bit. Hopefully, he can just kind of teach him also that part of the game, and he has good mentors to learn from, and he's young, he's moldable. We've seen what he can do on the ball and in quick touches, tight spaces. Like, I don't think it's ideal to have him in that, but if we need someone to fill that role and we're looking at other people, I think it could work as an experiment.
There were times I feel like last season as well where we saw like a Nasi Berry, Nasi Ramirez type, but at the end of game, like that might be an option.
They're gone.
I feel like that was just throwing bodies at net.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Right,
That
but
could
I feel like
totally
these would be
work.
bodies that I would be better suited at that. If it's something we do, if it's our Hail Mary, I feel like we got at least a little bit of a stronger Hail Mary.
No, that's 100% true. I mean, the floor today on this team is so much higher. But I'll pose this question to you guys because this is how I look at the departure section: is would you get rid of and I think it has to be a U22 guy, right? So even if this potential departure gets delayed till the summer, would you get rid of Aude, Sanabria, or Nascimento to bring in a U22 8-10 hybrid? If it was like posed to you today, if you could do that today, would you make that departure? Like if Aude gets a call from Argentina and they go, hey, we want Aude, do you ship Aude off to bring in a guy that fits the 8-10 role? Or do you just stand pat and would you rather the Nascimento?
I'd rather keep the depth in the defense.
In the left back role, yeah.
Because that's a role that, I don't know, it's a role that gets overlooked, I think. And I think if we end up having no depth there, it could be a pretty big problem.
But you did mention a couple options. I feel like I would take that Nasi trade. That's sort of how we kind of opened this discussion, that idea that Nasi probably isn't going to get re-signed. If he's not anyway, make the most of that space and do something like that, fill that other massive hole that we've needed. So to me, I feel like that's just kind of there. It feels almost logical, almost like a layup.
I personally would get rid of Sanabria. Out of all the names that
I agree.
listed,
I'm gonna have to agree with that.
That's the easiest one that we can fill the hole.
I just don't think he has much trade value at this point.
I think the kid's got immense talent, but if picking between him or Winder right now, I think Winder impressed me a lot more. And he's
definitely
costs a lot less.
Winder has a lot more to offer, at least in this point in his game. I feel like he's much more of a physical presence. I feel like Sanabria, even coming from South America, I'd expect him to have a bit more bite in his game, but I think he got kind of overrun by the physicality of the league early on.
Yeah, I will say this. The only other guy, because I really don't want to get rid of Nascimento because I like him as a player, outside of it being a layup in terms of just a straight swap, Aude might be the only guy that has true trade value left in his game, especially going back to Argentina.
I think he has some pretty big trade value.
The only issue is, personally, I just don't think that Greg Vanney uses him correctly. I think that he's a traditional wingback, and we don't play any formation that favors that.
Maybe
if we were to switch, we can. And this has been my biggest argument: is like Greg needs to change, and Aude can totally fill that role, which would be fucking awesome. But if he's not going to change, I think that Hack can potentially just play left back and step into the midfield. If that's going to be the way forward, like you could your backup left back depth could just be Justin Hack.
I even think Harbour Miller
or Harbour Miller, sure, Cuevas. Like, I think that it doesn't seem like there's a lot of depth there, but I think there is.
It just goes back to what we were talking about though. Like, do you want a guy that can do the job, like okay, at left back, or do you want a left back?
Right.
We have guys that can play left back, but we don't have many left backs.
I mean, how highly do you rate Nelson? Because he just extended.
So. Yeah.
No, I know, and I think that's fine. Like, they're going to be dogging out. We just talked about competition. It's good for Aude and Nelson to both be there, to be pressing each other. If one of them gets complacent, then the other one just takes the place. And I think that's how the relationship has pretty much been in that left back role.
As soon as you lose one of the two, it suddenly gets so shallow. One injury, and all of a sudden you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with that. I'm really my concern is that without a 10, Greg Vanney's system doesn't work. And that's because I haven't seen it work without Ricky. And I just don't think that it's either we're going to ask Royce to do too much, which potentially could hurt us in the long game, or we're just going to struggle to score goals in his style of play. So something's got to give. Either Greg Vanney's system has to give, or Will Kuntz's, or the depth's got to give. And we got to figure out what really we want. I think personally for me, I'd rather just find some stopgap 10. I'd love for Fagundes to just come back. And then the rotation would just be him and Royce. Look, I just don't imagine him. I know that everyone thinks that he's going to get signed somewhere. I feel like if you gave him something reasonable, or if you just moved off Ramirez and you gave him that contract, Why wouldn't he take that to stay in LA, somewhere he's comfortable? He can be the leader, and he'd be promised essentially, if not starter minutes weekly because of CCC. I feel like he'd take that. Does he need the payday like that? I'm not sure.
That portion insurance is
That's
nuts.
what
Who knows?
This was also not me talking. It's not my money. Again, it's
No,
not
I
my-
know, that's what I'm saying. You should have asked him how the bank account's looking.
I did ask him if we were going to see him in a kit, and he said that he doesn't know.
I know.
So I was like, but it sounded like he will. I don't think there was any animosity towards him not being.
No,
There. That's not what it.
He
No,
just
it
doesn't sound.
doesn't seem like that at all.
We'll talk about it a little later, but I think the acquisition that our special team, our road trip team made is kind of where I'm heading in. That direction is what I'm heading in, and that's what I want to see. But we'll wait on that.